It is another very muddy and wet day here in Vermont because once again it rained so much last night. When we left town yesterday, so we were in Manchester Center, Vermont yesterday because there's a Ben & Jerry's there, so we went. But when we were there, we didn't leave till like 2, and then it started raining, and essentially poured the entire rest of our hike. We only did about 10 miles yesterday afternoon, soaking wet, and then of course it was pretty chilly last night, as it has been up here. I don't know if it's normally quite this cold, but it has been lately, and it's lovely on like sunny or not wet days, but when you're wet and it's in the low 60s, probably upper 50s this morning, then it's just cold. So it was pretty cold getting into camp last night, and of course it takes a while to dry off because there's really not anywhere to dry off. It was raining too much to really comfortably pitch. Luckily, we were all able to squeeze into a shelter, even though there were already a ton of people there. We made it work. So, woke up this morning, was dry finally after overnight. But then it's like you got to put your wet clothes back on and go out in the cold. So it was pretty chilly this morning. Of course, once you start hiking, it's not too bad. You're still wet, but you're more heated from your activity. So here is the trail. You can kind of tell this part actually really isn't looking that bad comparatively to some other parts that we've stomped through. But everything is just wet and muddy. The Northeast in general, many states up here, like I know when we went through Massachusetts and Connecticut, pretty sure both Massachusetts and Connecticut have had their wettest July on record, or at least for several decades. And I know other states up in the Northeast have also had too much rain, essentially. So yes, it's been a very wet time up here, which is totally fine. It's interesting though to think back to, there were parts of Virginia and Pennsylvania where there weren't enough water because it didn't really rain much at all. And then also it didn't rain on us a ton in the beginning of our hike, so I feel like we're a little overdue for some unfortunate weather. The rain does make these woods very pretty though, especially the pine areas. If I come into another pine area today, I will show it. Here's the trail again. Anymore, I just walk through it. Everything is already soaking wet. Why bother trying to go around? But yeah, today Bug's family is meeting her up here, so we're going to a hotel room tonight, even though we were just in one. I feel like the Northeast Platinum Blaze is beginning. Platinum blazing meaning essentially you stay in town a lot or indoors in a nice dry space. So time to platinum blaze, I guess. Also, a little update from Tramily Relations. We had to have kind of a difficult conversation the other day, because we had all talked about how, there are four of us, we had talked about how we really, we've been together pretty much since day 1, 2, or 3, and we wanted, if possible, to finish together. One of the four of us has a deadline, though, to go to a wedding, and we had kind of been operating on that deadline for the sake of staying together. However, operating on that deadline proved to be a bit stressful for some of us, some more than others, some not. And also, just as we're nearing the end of the hike, it kind of dawns on you wow, this won't last forever, this hike. And I think we also, apart from the deadline, started realizing that there are just differences in the things that we want to do sometimes. Sometimes someone wants to take a double zero, or someone wants to zero out a hostel and other people don't, or even just have the ability to be spontaneous and stop at a lake if it's really pretty for the day, having only gone 7 miles. So we had to have this conversation where we discussed these kind of different pullings that we're all having, and what that means for, finishing together, hiking together. And it was pretty hard, just because when you build such strong relationships with people, obviously you want to stay with them, and it's not quite as simple as, oh, just hike your own hike, because the people that you're with are so much a part of your hike, especially I've gone 1,700 miles with these people. That's a long time. We just celebrated 4 months on trail yesterday. Today is July 30th. So kind of the conclusion we came to is our desires are not so incompatible that we can't really stay together, but there is the chance that later on down the line, that means that A, we don't finish together, or B, sometimes we're doing different things, which we've already done. We don't always do the exact same thing. But yeah, it's just kind of sad. So I know that I'm still hiking with 2 of my main 3 other people. One person pulled ahead because she has a wedding to go to. Oh, I have an itch. She has a wedding to go to at the beginning of August, so she was already planning on pulling ahead. She's also the one with the overall deadline, so she was planning on pulling ahead. We're planning on meeting back up with her in Lincoln, New Hampshire, because her family is from there, so we're gonna zero all together then, and hopefully after that too, we'll be able to still be in all be in the same proximity as each other, even if that means a day or 2 ahead behind. People wait up, people speed up, whatever, but we'll see. There's a loud stream. So those conversations are never fun to have, just because, it's hard when you build strong relationships like that and you have ideals, a perfect scenario of finishing together, but that isn't necessarily practical, realistic, or healthy for everyone involved in the situation, whether that be physically, mentally, or just experientially what people are wanting to experience. So yeah, I personally am relatively flexible. I don't have a deadline. I don't feel physically limited in terms of mileage. Like, I'm good going 10, I'm good going 25. I feel very strong and healthy, and I'm very thankful to have not really had injury so far on trail. And my body is operating well. So I'm so grateful for that. So yeah, at this point where I'm kind of at, like, yes, there are different experiences that I want to have. And like, if I'm in town, I don't necessarily like feeling rushed out of town, because I like to chill in the morning, get coffee, whatever. I'm a town girl, what can I say? So at this point, I'm just kind of, I'm sure there will come points where it's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead for a couple days. Like, I want to stay here. Like, I'll catch up with you guys later, whatever. But for the most part, I'm pretty flexible in how many miles I do, where I stay. And if there is something that I really want to do, then I'll do that. But overall, I think I mostly would rather just hang out with my people, because something I have realized is, even though I started this trail on my own, fully intending to be alone a lot more than I have been, something I realized when I was pushing through Pennsylvania super fast, when I went ahead of the rest of my group, and I was 60 miles ahead of them at one point. I had done 220 miles in 9 days. Something I realized is that, like, yeah, I don't really want to do this journey, quote unquote, alone, or just without the friends that I've made along the way. So yeah, that's still a recent conversation. We're still kind of figuring out the kinks of what that looks like going forward. But it's a good conversation to have. Like, it was a very healthy and productive conversation. It wasn't a finger pointing conversation, because that solves nothing. But yes, ideally we would all be together and we would all enjoy, like, the mileage and the low stress aspects of the trail. But like, just when it comes down to us on individual levels, I think we all have different limits, different desires, and that's totally fine. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's just different, and you have to work through those things. So that was a very long spiel about tramway conditions. I always get afraid that people are walking up behind me when I'm talking. I don't know why. Doesn't matter, but I do get worried. Yeah, these woods are absolutely beautiful. And this little stretch of trail that I've been on for this 8-minute video has been pretty dry. Okay, it's wet, but it's not muddy, which I'm good with that. I'm really good with that.